How exactly does the Sith ranking system work? Greetings, acolytes and students of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. Mystery has always surrounded the practice of the Sith Order, and this includes their hierarchical structure. Most see the Sith bureaucracy as a giant pyramid with a caste system on each layer, and while this is true, becoming a Sith Lord and climbing these ranks isn't anywhere near as straightforward as it is in the Jedi Order. Ironically though, contrary to how the Jedi function, the Sith weren't very strict on labels. They divided up ranks purely based on aptitude, proven qualities, and connections. Just about everything had to be earned through struggle and through strife in the Sith Order, but because of this, there could be a lot of confusion and overlap within their structure. So follow us as we open a holocron and break down all the ranks of the Sith from Initiate to Dark Lord. If you enjoy explanation entries such as this, be sure to like this video and comment down below what other explanations in the Star Wars lore you would like to see in the future. Now, students of the Force, let us begin. First, Initiate. The rank of Initiate is equivalent to that of a youngling, but a more appropriate term would be more like a white belt, since almost anyone of age could become a Sith Initiate. The Sith Order though preferred them younger. They needed them to be impressionable and still held plenty of promise for a future, but not so young that they hadn't already been wronged by the galaxy, forming their own inner darkness. Initiate only really existed during the days when Sith academies were around. We first see Initiate during Revan's time, when his apprentice Darth Malak set up the Sith Training Academy on Korriban. Unlike the Jedi younglings, those in this rank were rarely actually taught anything at all except pain and the code of the Sith. An Initiate was simply a Sith hopeful, a Force adept not yet taken through the preliminary trials. The life of an Initiate revolved purely around one thing, and that was prestige. Prestige was invisible, incalculable status that the Sith aspirants had to attain to a certain amount in order to go noticed by a Dark Master. Initiates were encouraged to go out and run dangerous errands, take on difficult challenges, and accomplish any goal that was of high caliber to where they would gain notoriety. This prestige was the only thing that mattered in this stage of the game, as they had to be attractive to potential masters. As a result, Initiates would often sabotage one another's efforts, or go as far as to take out rivals in order to improve their odds. While this technically was not allowed, the punishment for sabotaging or even killing another student was not really that harsh at all and did not fit the deed itself. But for being stupid enough to get caught was the real problem and the real reason for punishment. Treachery, though, was silently encouraged, and teachers or overseers of an academy were told to make life for the Initiates difficult, so that only the strongest or the most cunning would survive. The Initiate trials were purely meant to weed out weaklings, to cull out those who did not deserve to become a Sith. This is why the rank of Initiate is actually one of the most dangerous stages in a Sith Lord's life. It didn't matter how inexperienced you were, you would always have to look over your shoulder and be one step ahead of everybody else. Like we said earlier, the Initiate stage would be largely used in the days of Revan in the academies of Vitiate Sith Empire. The actual title, however, would see a sharp decline in the days of the New Sith Wars, and would fade into irrelevancy by the time of the Brotherhood of Darkness and Darth Bane, where the word Initiate was simply replaced with that of student, and the role would also change, as students would learn far more about the dark side and have a more hands-on education by masters. This replaced the master and apprentice dynamic for a period of time, as Sith students were given a more group-styled academic experience, but this would be considered heresy and would be abolished once Darth Bane instated the rule of two. And with this, the rank of Initiate would fade from relevancy forever. But the next stage we have is an apprentice. One of the most important and enduring ranks in all of the Sith lore is that of the apprentice. Throughout its history, apprentice is either the starting rank or the ascended rank of an Initiate. The difference between the two is that the status of an apprentice is only given to those who have one master. Those Initiates who have successfully proven themselves and been selected by a master will officially become a Sith apprentice. Though in the Rule of Two era, the apprentice is where one begins. But largely speaking across the history of the Sith Order, apprentice was not really a rank, but rather a role. This began in the ancient days of the Old Sith Empire, where many Lords of the Sith would take on an apprentice to do their bidding, or eventually even succeed them. However, we do not see the role of the apprentice being the successor become mainstream until the Rule of Two and Darth Bane. For most of the Sith Order's history, the apprentice was actually the servant of the first master. You see, both the master and the apprentice could technically be Sith Lords, but one had command over the other, and the apprentice must always obey their master. This is where the overlap we talked about comes into play. We see this dynamic coming to light during the time of the Jedi Civil War with Darth Revan and Malak. Revan brought over the Jedi practice of selecting a single apprentice to the Sith Order, and Revan instated this as the status quo. It continued with the Sith Triumvirate and Darth Traya as the Master, with Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion as her apprentices. During the Sith Rule of Two, the apprentice role becomes far more important though, as they are expected one day to rise up and replace their master as the Dark Lord of the Sith, continuing on the cycle. Until that time though, they crave power and struggle to acquire even small scraps of knowledge that their teachers throw at them, and continue serving the will of their sole master. Outside of the Rule of Two though, many Sith will live and die in the role of an apprentice unless they are able to surpass or kill their master. And now we reach the rank of acolyte. This is an extremely broad term that has been used for many things over the course of galactic history. Most notably, we understand the term of Dark Acolyte being akin to what a Dark Jedi is, but we aren't talking about the general term of Dark Side Acolyte, but specifically a Sith Acolyte. For many years on and off, this was considered to be the counterpart of a Jedi Knight, somewhere between apprenticeship and mastery. It is understood that an acolyte is a mid-ranked Sith that has gained a suitable amount of knowledge to where they can handle themselves in most instances, and they do not have to be watched over by their master. This function of the term, however, was only ever used when the Sith Empire had enough members in their ranks to form a proper army. Hence, it was most popularly seen during the Great Galactic War and the New Sith Wars, specifically during the time of Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness just before the Rule of Two. In honesty, acolyte has been a strange, unofficial term, as when many Sith achieve this rank, they don't refer to themselves as an acolyte, but rather whatever class of Sith they believe themselves to be, meaning that those that were marauders, assassins, sorcerers, or what have you would refer to themselves as that class. Oddly, acolyte was quick to become obsolete, as it represented a limbo state of stagnation. No Sith wanted to stay an acolyte for long, as they always wanted to be progressing. You see, unlike the Sith, the Jedi view the rank of a knight as the ultimate goal. The rank of master was reserved for those who proved themselves to be truly exceptional, but oftentimes, Jedi Knights were comfortable in setting into that role. But Sith always want to see themselves growing and getting stronger in every way, and so they dislike the rank of acolyte. In fact, we are going to be releasing a holocron soon talking all about why the rank of acolyte went completely extinct in the lore. But anyway, many of the Sith skip this rank entirely and go straight to master if they're able to kill their own. Past the Rule of Two, the term acolyte was eschewed entirely, and the acolyte would not be seen again in Legends for the entire lifespan of the Sith. Even Darth Krayt's one Sith technically do have a rank in between apprentice and master, but it doesn't share the name acolyte. They are simply referred to as Sith. As far as why May is being called an acolyte in the Acolyte in canon, it may be a rearranging of the title. Perhaps acolyte has replaced what initiate once was, as May is aspiring to become an apprentice, but right now is only considered a Sith fanatic or an acolyte. This explanation though is purely theoretical at this point. From this point forward, there are some miscellaneous ranks that are given within the Sith Order and caste system. Most acolytes will graduate and be categorized within their varying specialities, and in those specialities, you have assassins, who had a series of alchemist ranks, marauders had battle lords, and then there were the dreadlords of Vitiate's empire. However, these are less ranks and more special classifications. We just wanted to mention these for the sake of being cohesive, but we won't be focusing on going on too much detail into these classes since they don't have a place in the direct upward climb of a Sith's hierarchy. But if you would like a whole holocron dedicated to these classes, please let us know down below. Moving on in the ranks after Acolyte, we have Lord and Darth. Before we get to Lord, I'm sure many are confused as to why Darth is in this category. Many of us are used to Darth being a title instead of a rank. But prior to the Rule of Two, Darth was actually a moniker that had to be earned instead of given. Darth was a symbol of supremacy within the dark side, and ultimate authority as a Sith. It was so authoritative, in fact, that the Brotherhood of Darkness dropped the usage of the title entirely because it invited challenge. But Darth Bane changed all of that when he took the title of Darth and ushered in a new age where every Sith Lord in the Rule of Two would claim this moniker as their royal right. On the other hand though, the title of Sith Lord exists in a vacuum, since it doesn't adhere to the traditional hierarchy of a Sith rank. This rank and Master have a heavy amount of overlap, since one cannot be a Master without first being a Lord, but one can be a Lord without being the Sith Master. Sith Lord basically represents the ceiling of how high most Sith can go. By the rank of Lord, they have proven themselves to have an extensive knowledge of the dark side, and exquisite amounts of power to back it up. In the ancient days of the lore, Lord was a title granted only to those Sith who had the most prestige and power in all of the Empire, and for the ancient Sith, it was extremely rare. A Sith Lord was likened unto a king. During Revan's Empire and the Sith Triumvirate, only the Sith in charge of the entire Empire were considered lords. This would change during the Great Galactic War, as it became more of a mid-rank for the Sith who would pass their trials and were no longer under the jurisdiction of another Sith, and the term was less prestigious. They often had command over their own capital ships though, or entire fleets depending on who the Sith Lord was, but they were far from a dark side king. This would change again though during the new Sith Wars, as in Khan's Brotherhood. In the Brotherhood of Darkness, they believed that only a select few had the aptitude to even become a Sith, so instead of it being a rank, Lord was a category like that of Marauder or Assassin. They liked to think of Lord as something like a queen's piece in chess, one who was worth at least 10 Sith by themselves, so they were trained in a special academy on Korriban away from the lesser privileged Sith aspirants. Those who made it through the grueling Sith Lord training would arrive on the battlefield with power and authority innately granted to them by virtue of the title of Lord. And although they believed that this was a high honor, Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness cheapened the title of Lord for a very long time, until Bane hit reset. During the Rule of Two, the apprentice and the master could hold the title of Sith Lord, but only once the apprentice crossed a certain threshold of power and knowledge. They would still be adherent to their master, but by being a Lord, it meant that they could lay claim to the legacy and supremacy that came with being a Sith. It was now theirs. By the end of the apprenticeship, Darth Plagueis was a Sith Lord right alongside his master Tenebrous. Same thing with Darth Sidious, and then of course with Dooku and Vader, both of which were considered lords. Whether or not Maul was ever a Sith Lord is up for debate though. In some material and legends, Maul is granted the title of Lord. However, Palpatine never gave him the lore or knowledge necessary, or even the entitlements that a real Sith Lord would have had. Therefore, we don't know how to classify him just yet until we get more knowledge on his upbringing and training. But we would love to hear in the comments if you would consider Maul a Lord or not. And now, we have reached the penultimate rank, that of Master. Much like the apprentice, the rank of Master purely defined a Sith Lord who had taken on an apprentice. But make no mistake, mastery in the Sith Order was a great honor, often treated with even more respect than a regular Lord. But sometimes a Sith Master doesn't really define a teacher. In many eras of the Sith, they had a strict social order, so a lesser Sith might refer to someone of a higher status as Master, even if they aren't necessarily the lesser Sith's Master. But having said that, while Apprentice serves as both a role and a rank, Master was, and always has been, a lot more of a role than an official rank. A Sith Master is a role that comes with the distinct privileges such as freedom, supremacy, and access to forbidden knowledge. The rank of Master becomes a lot more attractive in the Rule of Two, as the Master is the one who embodies the power, the one who calls the shots for their own era. They're the one who's dispatching the apprentice to do their bidding, crafting the future. Being at the top, a Sith Master had the right to enjoy the finer things that the Sith had to offer. Weaklings had to grovel at their feet, money was no object, and a Sith was denied nothing that their hearts desired, as they had the power to make all of it happen. When one desires to become a Sith, the Master is the one they see and covet to become. But just like anything in a Sith Lord's life, it's not all sunshine and roses. A Sith Master has only one rival and threat to their existence, and that is their own apprentice. They need to stay one step ahead of them at all times and prolong their inevitable death as long as possible to accomplish their plans. A Master knows that they will die. This means maintaining a balance of ensuring that their apprentices know just enough to be useful, but not enough where they become too powerful too soon. As Sidious says, a Master must have an apprentice, for without one, they are a master of nothing. And now, students of the Force, we have reached the final rank, the Dark Lord of the Sith. Dark Lord, or sometimes Sith Emperor depending on the era, is the one in charge of it all. The Sith Order is structured as a pyramid, and an Emperor, or a Dark Lord, sits on top. Only one can be a Dark Lord of the Sith, and that's something that has not changed in all of the eras of Sith except for the weakest in the Brotherhood of Darkness, as they decided to call their commander a leader instead of a Dark Lord, proving just how weak they were. This is something that Darth Bane would quickly change, as he reinstated the title of Darth. This is the ultimate end goal for any Sith Lord. No rank beyond a Sith God exists beyond that of a Dark Lord, and only Vitiate has enough hubris to attempt to become a god. In the ancient days of the Sith Empire, kings like Adis and Doth Kagrosh originally held the title of an Overlord, which eventually became Dark Lord once Ajunta Pal and the Dark Jedi arrived on Korriban. The Dark Lord of the Sith is the one who often shapes galactic history, defining their own generation by their choices and actions. They are defined by the wars that they wage. This position becomes more common and potent in the Rule of Two, as every master is also the Dark Lord. And just as all Dark Lords before them, they hold the entire Sith Order, all that power, in the palm of their hand. But with that power, they have the eyes of all the spirits of their predecessors upon them. While many believe that the Dark Lords of the Sith is the ultimate power, they must maintain a standard for the Order while they are alive. Otherwise, the dark side may reject them, or the spirits of former Dark Lords may come for their very life. Even a Dark Lord of the Sith must answer to the dark side, for the dark side itself is the true master. But now, my friends, we have gone through every rank within the Sith Order, each of them with their own distinct importance, as we explored their strengths and weaknesses. In every stage of the game, you are watched by eyes that surround you. They speak of your greatness and accomplishments, but with that comes also great expectation and grave danger. But anyway, my friends, these are the ranks of the Sith. Which of them did you find the most compelling? And if you would like to see a full breakdown of each of the Sith classes, be sure to let us know in the comments and like the video. As always, my friends and students of the Force, as always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.